All right, so and we learned yesterday about cleaning clothes, and most of what I taught you was Torah Sheba'al Peh, not inside. Although we did start the Shulchan Aruch, both the Machaber and the Alter Rebbe. However, Hashem helped, and I was able to put together this handout with the help of something I had written several years ago when I was learning it in the last round. So we are going to read it through, even though a lot of it we learned yesterday, so it'll be a review. יש לך את זה? שלחתי באימייל. לא, שלחתי אימייל. אין לך? Just go through it. Okay, so here's a little bit of background to the Sif. And these are quotes from Siman 301 and 320 in the Alter Rebbe, just to tell you a little bit about the whole idea of washing garments. Kibus. One who whitens, melabein, also translated as bleaches, wool or linen, or similar things that are usually bleached, is liable. This is one of the obvious malachas because in the Mishkan they would bleach the wool and linen that was used for the work in the Mishkan.
Is it last Siman?
Yeah. I'm just learning it kind of as an intro to the whole concept here. One who washes garments is considered to have transgressed on the tulda of malaban and is chayav. So the actual av is to bleach wool before you actually make it into the garment. They would take wool that was, somewhat dirty from being the animal's hair, basically. Sheep don't take showers very often, and they would clean it, and the same thing with linen. But washing a garment is told of that. It's called kibus. One who squeezes a garment until the water comes out of it is considered like washing garments and is chayav from malaban. We explained that yesterday as well. That in the course of washing, you usually wet the garment and you squeeze out the water. The water takes out with it the dirt, and that is part of the washing process.
Is there a malacha of schita? This is a makor of schita?
No, there's actually two concepts in schita. Here. And this is what I quoted from Siman Shin Chaf. One concept of schita is dash. That is to say, what is dash in the Mishkan? Taking out the edible grain from the husk, right? So when you take out a liquid from inside a solid, that is a tulda of dash, it's called mafarik. Take a grape, for example, squeeze it, get out the wine or the grape juice, whatever it is, that is mafarik, that is a Torah violation. Now, if you squeeze a liquid that is absorbed in any solid, doesn't have to be a fruit, with the juice, but even a garment with the liquid in it, if you need that liquid, you're going to use that liquid, that is a tulda of mafarik. In other words, you have a garment, and it's clean water, you want to drink it. Squeeze out the water, drink it. That is an actual ab malacha of mafarik. If you don't need that water, so that is a malacha shen tzarich l'gufa. You don't need the water, so it's not going to be a yisur d'oraisa. According to most poskim, will say malacha shen tzarich l'gufa is not a yisur d'oraisa. But if it is a type of liquid that cleans a garment, which basically water, maybe some others, but not wine or other stuff like that. So then, if you would squeeze it, even if you don't need the liquid, you would be chayav for
cleaning.
For cleaning, exactly. Those are the two possibilities of schita. Schita can either be mafarik, if you need the liquid, or melaben, if it's a cleansing type of liquid.
Water is a cleansing?
Water is a cleansing. White wine, some place can say cleanses also.
Vinegar.
Maybe. Stuff like that. So that's the quote that I have in the handout from Siman 320. Also the Alter Rebbe, here it goes. A garment that is soaked, even in liquids that do not cleanse, it is forbidden to squeeze it because of the prohibition of a farik, which is a tulda of dash. just as squeezing fruits is forbidden because of mefarik. But he's not liable for the squeezing unless he needs the liquids that are being squeezed from the garment. But if he doesn't need liquids being squeezed, and he isn't squeezing it except to clean the garment, this is not similar to dash at all, because one who threshes needs the grain that he's removing from the sheaves. Therefore, the squeezing is only a rabbinic violation and not a Torah one. Again, if you squeeze it, it is, and you don't need the liquid, it is not going to be Issa Deraisa, because it's not the normal way of dash when you don't need the liquid. Actually, the language out there is clear that it's not only because it's some lach or stuff lagufa, it's also because it's not similar to dash. If you're doing, you're taking something out which we have no use for, that's not similar to dash, where you would take it out and use that object.
Both of them is a sur, one the Raita and one the Rabbanan.
Yeah.
So both of them it's the Raita is Hayav bring
yeah, if he did it by accident, he would bring a chatas, the time of the Beis HaMikdash. And yeah, the Rabbanan, he does tshuva.
The tshuva.
Okay, I'm just going to read Shabbos 147a, even though we learned it already yesterday. Here's the Gemara. If one shakes out his cloak on Shabbos, he is liable for a chatas, either washing or makabeh patish, based on the mafarshim, as we're going to see. Now, we said this only of new ones, but in the case of old ones, we have nothing against it. And this is said...
Nothing against it?
This is just an old English. I use an art scroll and not an art scroll, Sansino Gemara, so it's just the English. But basically means there's nothing, there's no Isser. Yeah, I'm reading here now. Shabbos 147a. But in the case of old ones, we have nothing against it. And this is said only of black ones. In the case of white or red ones, we have nothing against it. But in any case, there's no culpability unless he is particular about them. So the Gemara spells out the three conditions. A, that it has to be new. B, it has to be black. And C, that it has to be that he's particular about it. Makbid. Okay, before we continue, I want to talk a little bit about black, because somebody asked yesterday, what about other dark colors?
Like blue, like...
Exactly. So, Rabbi Yosef says, brought on the Alkut Yosef, that most poskim specifically say black. That's it. It's only black. Other colors, even dark colors, are not included.
What are we doing? What is shaking? What's shaking out of cloak mean?
I didn't get to that yet. Sorry. We're going to see soon. It's Machlek is Rashi, Rabbeinu Tam and the Rambam, what exactly you're shaking out, whether it is dust, according to Rashi, dew, according to Tosfos, or fluff, according to the Rambam.
What would be the problem with dust?
We're going to see in a moment.
Fluff
The point is that
Tal,
no, fluff is begadim tzihuv, k'tzat begadim katanim keilu shenisharu me'ariga. So the point is that if it's not black, these things are not really an issue because you don't really notice them against a white background and so on. But some poskim do say, well, maybe it's only white and red and other light colors that are not a problem. But dark colors should be a problem, even if they're not black per se, dark blue or so on, or even, dark red like purple or whatever, maybe also. Anyway, Shlomo Zalman says to be strict on other dark colors brought on the Shmir Shabbos. Okay, as far as particular, we're going to get more into that soon, what it means particular. Okay, the Gemara says, Ula visited Pumbedisa. Seeing the scholars shaking their garments, he observed, the scholars are desecrating the Shabbos. Said of Yehuda to them, shake them in his presence, for we are not particular at all about the clothes. So he didn't pay any attention to Ula, and he said, do it dafka in his presence to show that we don't care and it's okay. Now, before we continue, I just want to mention that last time we quoted the Mishnah Berurah, who discusses what is it exactly that Ula thought and what did Rav Yehuda correct him about. I mean, why was Ula so quick to jump on them and say... Yeah, exactly. Why was Ula so quick to jump on them and said they're desecrating the Shabbos? I mean, it depends if they're particular, they're not particular, whatever. So the understanding that Mishnah Berurah has is that the presumption, according to the Mishnah Berurah, if it's new and black, the presumption is that you are makbid. In order for it to be mutter, you have to know that you're not makbid. Otherwise, the presumption is that you're makbid. That was the Mishnah Berurah's whole way he learns Pshat in the Gemara is that it's really all about kpeda. It's really all about your feeling. It's a very subjective kind of halacha, very unusual, by the way.
Would you wear it out? That's the question.
Would you? Most persons can say, would you wear it without cleaning it? That's what makbid means.
Would you wear it outside?
It depends what.
It
Depends what. It depends what. You can continue saying it. I'm not going to back down. It depends what. Obviously, you'll come to a point that something bothers you, but maybe you're bothered by less things than other people. But the point is that if you would wear it without cleaning it, that's called Einam Makbid. Anyway, according to the Mishnah Berurah, that's the main thing. If you're Makbid, it's a problem. If not, no. Now, the whole point is, I mentioned this yesterday, but I'll say it again, that because this is not really a normal way of cleaning, that's why it depends on you. When it comes to cleaning with water, we don't care if you're Makbid or not. You can't say, well, it's just a little stain, I don't really care. I'm just going to put some water. Yeah, big deal, whatever. I would wear it without it. I don't care. No. That's a malacha. That's like saying, I don't care if I cook or not. I'm just cooking, big deal. It doesn't work that way.
What malacha is it to take the dust off of a clothes?
Rashi says it's a kibbutz.
What's getting better?
The garment. You're washing the garment. Why is that washing? Why is that washing? Why is that washing? Well, Tosfos says it can't be washing because you need to wash with liquid. But Rashi says, I'll give you the explanation of the Mishnah Berurah, how the Rashi explains that normally when it comes to normal stains, you need water. And if you don't use water, it's not effective. And therefore, if you wash without water, it's not considered washing. But this particular type of dirt, which is dust, shaking it is enough. You don't need water to shake it. So therefore, shaking it is considered washing. Dry cleaning, exactly. The original dry cleaning. But one second, but because it is not really the normal way of washing, therefore it is subjective. It's up to the person, really. Now, according to Mishnah Berurah, the whole point is he makbid or not? So, if it's new and black, we assume he's makbid. And the only way for him to not, for it to not be a problem is if he knows he's not makbid. Whereas if it's light or old, then we assume he's not makbid.
He's not makbid. What is he doing?
The Ritva says ayin toiva. He just decides today I'll do it. Why not? And that's what I'm trying. Why not?
He writes ayin toiva.
Ayin toiva. Something like that. But I saw a different shot in the Sfas Emes and the Tosfos Rid. He says a different word. He says that actually it fits into the story I'm telling right now, but I'll get back to it in a second. That it has to do with Shabbos. He's not makbid during the week. Shabbos, he wants to look nice. That's okay, because he's not because it's the Kavod Shabbos, but because it's not the etzem, something that bothers him. Only because it's the Kavod Shabbos. He's doing the Kavod Shabbos.
He would wear it during the week, no issue.
Exactly. So because of that, it's not a significant change in the garment. So the point is that he uses that to explain this Gemara of Ula and the Chacham. But let me just finish the Mishnah Berurah's explanation. The Mishnah Berurah says, because new and dark garments, the stam is that he's makbid. So Ula saw them with these new dark garments. The stam is that he's makbid. He said, what are you doing? And Ula said, no, we know for a fact that we're not makbid. So therefore it's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
About the dry cleaning. So if
dry cleaning of today or dry cleaning? Today.
You don't
dry cleaning today is with chemicals. Dry cleaning today is with chemicals. That's just as usher as water.
But you don't allow to put water in it, right?
The dry cleaning today, they use chemicals.
But no water.
It doesn't make a difference. It's just as usher as water. When we say water, it doesn't have to mean water. It means substances that clean. It doesn't have to be water.
If you put water, you don't damage the jacket?
Doesn't have to be water, I'm saying.
I'm trying to.
It doesn't make a difference. However, you clean in an effective way is considered cleaning. I'll give you an example. The Shmir Shabbos says, if you use talcum powder to remove an oil stain, you know what I'm saying? You have an oil stain, so you use powder. It draws out the stain.
Oh,
It says that's an Issur D'Oraisa.
Says that?
The Shmir Shabbos.
This story happened on Shabbos, right?
Yeah, that's what he said. You're desecrating Shabbos, he said to them. You understand? So it's not. It doesn't have to be
Any
water.
kedem in Shabbat, leave it alone until after Shabbat.
Well, then we could close the Shulchan Aruch. We can go home. We have to learn a little bit and know what yes and what no. If you don't know, then yeah, don't clean.
It's better.
But if we'll learn, hopefully we'll know some things. Okay, back to Ula and Rabbi Yehuda. The Sfas Emes explains Ula and Rabbi Yehuda using the word I just said. He says that the reason that they were doing it is because it was Shabbos. Why were they doing it, he asks. If they don't care, why were they doing it? It's not like one of them was doing it. They were all doing it. He observed the scholars shaking their garments. So I mean, what's going on here? Do they care? Don't they care? Why are they all doing it? So he says, that's the pshat, it was Shabbos. And they were doing it, l'kavod Shabbos. And therefore, he sees them all doing it. He says, obviously, you guys care about it. You'd explain to him, no. Normally, we don't care. Therefore, it's not a malacha. Even though it's Shabbos and we're not l'kavod Shabbos, it's still mutter. That was the whole finish.
That's why all the city does that on purpose?
Well, it was his students, but yeah.
Taking off dust off an object by your hands waving. Why is that washing? Why is that
Shaking it? Oh, we don't want shaking.
Right, let's say shaking a jacket.
Yeah.
Why is that washing? Washing means like it went into the garment, took some dirt out, or like what's the problem with removing dirt from something? For example, if I have dirt on my shirt, what's the problem with removing the dirt?
So here's the thing. If the dirt is sitting on top of the garment, not embedded in it at all, there's no question that it's not cleaning. For example, a feather. A feather is on your garment, that's not considered cleaning.
Taking off a whole bunch of
Exactly. When it comes to dust, the dust is somewhat embedded. In a sense, it's not deep in, but it's kind of stuck to it. So that's why if you remove it in this way, it could be cleaning. Again, because it's not really the normal way, it's only if it bothers you and all these details, but perhaps it is cleaning.
Is that the whole also nowadays? We're not all three of these?
Actually, it's a machlokes if we pass on like Rashi or not. Let's learn it right now. But let's first continue the Gemara. Abaye was standing before Rabbi Yosef. He said to him, this is a translation from the 1930s, said he to him, give me my hat. Seeing some dew upon it, he hesitated to give it to him. Shake it and throw it off, he directed. That's Rabbi Yosef. For we are not particular at all. So we mentioned yesterday, Abaye didn't want to give Rabbi Yosef his hat. He thought it was he didn't want to give it to him dirty, but he didn't want to clean it because he thought that it was forbidden. It was evidently new and black.
Did he not even want to give it to him? Meaning he didn't want
Well,
to
he was hesitating. To give it dirty, it's like not respectful. To
Right.
clean
That's
it,
the
he didn't
pshat.
want to
Not
do
that
it.
he was just hesitating to give it because why would he give him a dirty hat? But not the pshat that he was going to move it and that's going to clean it.
No, that's the point. He didn't want to clean it because he thought that it was usher until Rabbi Yosef explained that he could, that he's not
No,
exactly.
but I'm saying in the case of him just moving the hat. From
No, it wasn't about moving.
Right, that's not.
No, it wasn't about moving.
But Rabbi, to say to your student to bring me your jacket and the jacket is dust in it, and I think we let him do maybe sin.
No, on the contrary, he was teaching him a halacha. He was teaching him a halacha that it was mutter. Maybe that's why he dafka asked him to teach him the halacha.
But not all of they said it's okay to do that. Some of them say it's okay, but some of them machmir.
No, Who's machmer?
All of them, no machmir?
No
How
machmir.
to trick the dust
If you're not makbid, if it doesn't bother you.
if you're not machmir.
Correct.
So what says do from this Gemara? That's why he says do.
So again, Rashi says that it's dust. The purpose of the shaking is to free it from the dust.
No,
Okay,
but and what does he do with this Gemara?
Oh, Rashi? Oh, with the last one about the dew? I'll get to that right now. Yes, question?
Yes. If Chadash is not makbid asur.
No.
Also mutar?
If it's chadash, but it's not makbid, it's mutar.
If it's not makbid mutar.
Correct.
So anything if it's not makbid mutar.
Correct.
Black.
Black, new, not makbid is mutar.
Okay. I was thinking differently. I thought Chadash, yeah, and
No.
okay.
Even black and new, if it's not makbid, it's mutar.
If it's makbid and it's lo Chadash, then it's a to
Machloket. That's a machloket. That's a machloket.
Okay,
Correct.
Okay, I accept.
That's a machloket. Okay, so Tosfos says that it cannot be cleaning without liquid. It can't be. There's no such thing as cleaning without liquid, and therefore it means shaking it from the dew. Now, I'm just going to skip ahead in the handout and share with you a question. They point out that Rashi himself says earlier, Kuf Mem Aleph, that there is no cleaning without liquid. Because he's talking about if you have mud stuck on your garment. We're going to learn about it later in the Siman.
If it's stuck, it sucks inside, Rabbi. No?
So we're going to see later that you cannot scrape it like that, but you could do it from the backside. See what I'm saying? It's like a shinui. It's like a kalach hayad. Instead of holding it from the front, you hold it from the back.
I can do it for outside too. It's like this.
Yeah, from the opposite side.
You're not
We're
like
gonna
you
see.
can't do that.
No. It means instead
shino.
of holding it close to where it is, you hold it on the
Outside.
other side of
Still
where the
scraping
stain is.
against each other.
Still scraping against each other.
What I don't get it. Rashi saying there's no cleaning unless with liquid.
No, he explains over there why is it mutter. So you can't just do a malacha kalach hayad. Why is it mutter to scrape off the mud from the other side
Shinui?
when after all you're cleaning it? Just because you're doing a shino, you can't do a malacha with a shinui. He says no, it's not a malacha derais anyway because there is no cleaning without liquid.
So what does it say about dust?
And here he says dust is an isser deraisa. So the Mishnah Berurah answers that over here. The Mishnah Berurah says, sorry, over here, that over there, you know what, I wrote it down, and I want to look it up, make sure I don't get it wrong. Oh, when liquid is needed, in other words, when you normally would clean with liquid, that's what it is. Normally you would clean a mud stained with liquid. And if you do it without liquid, that's not deraisa. But when it comes to dust, it's just as good to shake it off. There's no need for liquid. Then it could be deraisa. Make it even worse. Exactly. So then it could be cleaning even without liquid.
So Rabbi, you're walking in the street, in the sidewalk, and car come over and flush water with mud. So
Yeah.
you allowed to move the mud? But only in shinui, or I can
How? How do you want to move the mud?
You let it dry, right? It has to be let it dry, mud.
Well, you can't squeeze anything out. If it's sitting on the surface and you want to take it off, you could actually use like a knife or something just to scrape off very gently. So you shouldn't.
How I have a knife in Shabbat? My pocket.
You go home. What do you mean? You walk home. You're walking
I'm
home.
in the middle of the street going to
In
synagogue.
the street, you're not going to be able to do. When you get to the shul, you take a fork or a knife and you just scrape off the top, the layer on top.
Are you allowed to do that?
Yeah. Gently, so you don't squeeze what's inside. Just what's outside.
Just at the top.
Exactly.
Okay.
So why does Rashi say that it's not top? He agrees with the it's top.
Oh, so how does he explain the story with Abai and Rav Yosef? where it says that he saw dew on it. So first of all, some translate the word tala, which the Pashtus means dew, to mean dirt. I don't know where they get that from, but that's first of all. Second of all, okay, thank you. Second of all, perfect, thank you. Enough. Second of all, an interesting point they say is that Rashi agrees with Tosfos, even though Tosfos doesn't agree with Rashi. Tosfos says clearly.
Well, you said before Rashi says that anything that is considered clean.
For sure, exactly.
So how would be cleaning?
Exactly. So Tosfos disagrees with Rashi because Tosfos says that with no liquid there cannot be cleaning. Rashi says even without liquid there could be cleaning with dust, but how much more so with dew there could be cleaning. So therefore, the fact that the Gemara talks about dew is not a contradiction to Rashi because it could be talking about both. It starts with one, and then it talks about the other. By the way, the earlier Gemara seems to be a proof to Tosfos, the story with Ula and Rav Yehuda, because I mean, what are the chances that the rabbis all had dew on their clothes? I mean, dew is only like in the early morning.
What's the chance you have dew on a hat? I mean, wherever your clothes are, that's the chances.
I'm just saying the fact that he had dew on his hat can happen, but the fact there was a group of rabbis all sitting there.
Yeah, maybe they all put. Also, dust. How's dust form?
So he says, exactly. They used to sit on the floor, and they got up, and their clothes were dusty. That's the more likely scenario. It's not a strong proof, but it's more likely. It's more likely.
But depends. Is dust.
What time in Shabbos?
I don't know.
If it was just their Shabbos clothes and they had it there all week, so for sure, maybe they had tal on it. That's where they stored it. Maybe they stored it.
You used to study on the floor, Rabbi?
Yeah, they used to sit on the floor.
Okay. With a blanket or so?
Maybe.
Imagine going to those shiva, like a big tower, being Doresh, and like hundreds of people sitting on the floor.
Yeah, those were the days.
So spoiled. Nowadays, we don't have like a really comfortable seat, no?
Yeah. Okay, so that's Rashi and Tosfos. The Rambam, the Rambam says that it's a different issue. It has to do with makbeh padish. It is to free it from the white strands of wool that got attached to it during the manufacturing. And here is the language of the Rambam in Perek Yud Halacha Yud Ches. A person who removes threads, I'm on the top of the second page in the handout. A person who removes threads, straws, or splinters of wood from a garment by hand. For example, I see David's question, but let me just finish what I'm reading. For example, the splinters that are found in woolen garments is liable for performing derivative of dealing the final hammer blow. This applies provided the person is disturbed by them. If he removes them as a matter of course without thinking, he is not liable. This is a very important point here. The Rambam, in his description of makbid or not, he introduces a new concept. He introduces the concept of removing them as a matter of course without thinking. Derech agav, like absent-mindedly. Meaning to say,
it's normal. It's the norm. It's like without even thinking you're doing it.
Yeah, but he doesn't really care about it. It's not that it bothers him at all. The way the Mefarshim explain this is that if he's doing it for the purpose of cleaning it, whether he would wear it like this or not, it's considered a problem. You understand? So, although, to be honest, some say that this is the Rambam Lishitosoi, because the Rambam here is talking about a garment that is newly manufactured, right? And it still has junk stuck into it. So that's a much more significant malacha, because you've never...
The garment
while you were weaving it, exactly. So that's a much more significant malacha, because you're actually completing it. So there, even if you would wear it like that, but the fact is you're completing it. So that's therefore he's only lenient if your mamish has no intent at all.
Rashi would argue on that? So they would both say also.
That's an interesting question. I presume they would agree with that. I presume, even if this Gemara is not a source for it, but it would still seem to be.
Why doesn't he say that he agree with Rashi and Tosfos?
So Rashi, it's hard to say because so many Rishonim disagree with him, so we have no basis to say. Would he agree with Tosfos? The problem is that if we don't say, if we say that he disagrees, how does he explain the Gemaras? This is what people were asking yesterday. How does he explain the stories in the Gemara? Obviously, the Chachamim with Ula and Rabbi Yehuda were not all wearing new garments that had leftover threads in them. And certainly Rav Yosef's hat was not a new hat that had a dew woven into it. So it would seem that he agrees with at least Tosfos, and that's that. Although it is funny that the Gemara is switching from.
He saw Rashi, right? He was a later Rishon. It was before. After. I think was he much after Rashi?
He was not much after Rashi, but I don't know if he ever quotes Rashi.
He didn't see Rashi.
I don't know if he saw Rashi.
I remember seeing in the door was like he was either way before or way after.
No. He was a little bit after Rashi, but not much. Sorry, go ahead.
For the shoes, is the same halacha?
I'm sorry?
For the shoes, let's say you go in the rain and the water in the shoes, you allow to shake up the water.
Shoes are different because they don't really absorb.
Okay, so before you go to the synagogue, you can go do it like that and continue.
Yeah. The halachas of cleaning leather are more lenient than the halachas of cleaning garments, because leather does not really absorb.
So how people do tefillah on Shabbat?
Without their clothes.
Without clothes?
Without clothes,
so
absolutely.
They will stay outside until it dry?
No, they dry themselves with the towel.
Huh?
They dry off with the towel. What's the problem?
Well, they don't fit about if you got the towel, it's not schita?
Schita? From where?
From the water, are you coming from the...
It's not absorbed in your body. It's sitting on top of your body.
Okay, the problem is the clothes, the bathing suit, to go outside from the tefillah.
The bathing suit, exactly. The just the historical, the years. Rashi, according to Wikipedia, was born in 1040, and he passed away in 1105. Fairly young man, 65. Didn't know that. The Rambam was born 1135 or 1138, so passed away 1204. So he passed away a full 100 years after Rashi passed away. He definitely could have seen Rashi, but I don't know if he ever quoted him. 100, a full 100 years, or 99 years after Rashi passed away.
How could you see Rashi?
What do you mean? He passed away 100 years after Rashi passed away.
Couldn't see Rashi.
I mean the Rashi's explanation. I don't mean Rashi's person. I mean Rashi's explanation. No, he never went to France, and Rashi never went to Spain or any of the places that I lived in that I know of. And anyway, he couldn't have seen him. He was born after Rashi passed away. Okay. I'm doing a handout that from today.
Email you.
I emailed you very late. So it's basically a review of what we learned yesterday with a few extra points. Okay, finishing the Rambam. A person who shakes out a new black garment to make it attractive and to remove any remnants of white wool adhering to it, as is a tailor's practice, is liable to bring a sin offering. If he is not disturbed by them, it is permissible to do so. Okay, now, we learned yesterday the Machaber only quotes the opinion of Tosfos and the Rambam. He does not quote Rashi's opinion at all. The Ramah does quote Rashi's opinion, and the wording that the Ramah uses in his quote is "V'toiv lachos l'dvar." It's good to suspect, according to his opinion, which makes it sound like it's not an absolute necessity. It's a suggestion. It's a good thing. The Mishnah Berurah goes one step further, and he says that Medina, you should be strict, because many other Rishonim agree with Rashi. Yereim, Eliezer Mimit, Sefer Truma, Shibodei Aleket. So basically he says Minadina. But in any case, Yalkut Yosef says that Sfardim do not have to be strict like Rashi, because the Machaber does not pass like him. based on the fact that most Rishonim do not ask like him either. So therefore it would not apply to dust and so on. Okay, I already went through the story of Elon Rav Yehuda and the story of Abban of Yosef. I already went through without liquid why Rashi is strict over here, even though before he is lenient. Okay. Now here's an interesting point. We're going to see later in the Shulchan Aruch that there are certain garments that when you rub them after you clean them and they dry, in order to make them like whiter, they used to rub them, and that rubbing would bring out the whiteness of the garment. Just with your hands. No liquid at all.
Like this?
Yeah, exactly. And there, it's a chiyuv chatas mamash. So what does Tosfos mean when he says that there is no cleaning without liquid? And it's the question the Mishnah Berurah asks. Why does Tosfos says it can't mean Tosfos? Tosfos asks on Rashi. How can Rashi say it's talking about dust? How can there be cleaning without liquid? There we see that there is cleaning without liquid. So the Mishnah Berurah says that there you're actually working with the garment itself. You're using the garment itself, rubbing the garment itself, and therefore it's more strict. Over here, all you're doing is shaking the garment, and the stuff is coming off on its own. But if you're mamish working with the garment itself, even Tosfos agrees that there could be cleaning without liquid.
What about the shinui, like you teach us?
The shinui it says about mud. It doesn't say it about that kind of thing, about making it white. We're going to see later. Okay. I mentioned yesterday that the Mishnah Berurah is strict on various matters in this Siman, and that the Alter Rebbe does not agree with those strictnesses. So I'm going to go through them now once more. I mentioned before, the Mishnah Berurah says that if it's new and it's black, if you're not sure if it bothers you or not, you have to be strict. And the Alter Rebbe only says you have to be strict if you know that it bothers you. Difference number two, if it's an old garment or a white garment, but you know that it bothers you, the Mishnah Berurah says you have to be strict. Alter Rebbe says you don't have to.
Here they said you don't have to if it's not new.
Exactly. The Alter Rebbe says clearly, even if it bothers you, if it's old or white, it's no problem. The Mishnah Berurah says no. Old and white is just to tell you that it probably doesn't bother you. But if you know that it bothers you, it's a problem too. So that's another machlekes.
What's the difference if it's a beggar that's used or if it's not used as talent?
Well, what's the problem with towel? Towel is, again, it doesn't look nice if it has.
Shaking it off to wash it.
Why?
You tell me why. Why is shaking off a garment whenever it is usher?
Okay, it's not, the issue is not that the towel is absorbed in it. The issue is that the towel makes it look like it's dirty just because it has stuff on it, has these droplets on it. They're not really absorbed in it, they're just kind of sitting on it, but it kind of ruins the look of the garment. And therefore, it's not schita. That's the point. It's not schita. If it would be schita, then what's the difference? You know what I'm saying? Old, new, whatever. The point is that it is it just sitting on it, but it doesn't look nice because the look of the garment is ruined. It's dirt. I mean, it's dirty. It's
so if someone spilled sparkles on my jacket, it looks ridiculous. I'm not allowed to shake it off.
According to these exact parameters, you either can or cannot, based on these exact parameters. Meaning to say, when something is somewhat embedded, somewhat, but not deep, you know what I'm saying? Like dust or dew, or maybe those sparkles also, dandruff, you know what I'm saying? Anything like that, these are the parameters. If you're makbid, old, new, so on. Sorry? Exactly. According to the Alter Rebbe, it's all of these three to be aser. According to the Mishnah Berurah, the main thing is makbid or not, and old and dark is just to tell you, to give you guidelines as to whether you should be makbid or not, whether it's normal to be makbid or not.
Also, makbid on not black, other colors.
Yeah, if you're makbid. If you're makbid, he's always strict. Any color, any condition. The whole thing about white and old is that if you're not sure, you can be lenient. But if you're sure that you're makbid, you should always be strict according to him.
If you do it fast, let's say if the car flush your water in the jacket, and you right when you get it, you shake it. I mean, it's a count like you did.
It's like when you turn the light on by mistake and quickly you turn it off before it even.
Oh, it's not countable when you have water, all on your jacket. You're going to synagogue. I'm trying to think about how did they.
You want to cover the evidence.
What do you want to do exactly? Shake it?
No, I mean you got water. You can do like this or anything. I mean, like
Shirts nowadays that are waterproof. But
Scotch guard.
I don't know.
Kind of it runs off it.
For example, this shirt, I think, I forgot the name, but if water spills, it becomes like droplets on the shirt.
Yeah, it's
So
treated.
like this,
It's treated, yeah.
and they.
you just give me an idea about it.
So if I'm not.
They will spray the jacket before Shabbat, and then if it's water coming, you just go down, right?
Scotch guard. You could use Scotch guard. Even if it's not pre-treated. You can use
And then you can check it, right?
Yes.
I'm going to do all of my jackets.
So if I'm not put on
I
the
was
water, being
thinking,
on the
how can I go to synagogue and get
What do they
shit?
muck it? Like what do you like? I wouldn't
No,
want.
no,
Because
no,
אני
no.
הולך
I
לבקש
just want to
לו,
clarify.
לא, יש לי,
No,
לא, זה לא משנה, הג'קט, רבי, הג'קט אם הוא נרטב, זה לא משנה חדש או לא חדש.
Pass this around, please. I can't bring it home. It's against the policy.
רבי,
It's chocolate, shahakla.
רבי,
It's chocolate leaves, orange flavor. It's an acquired taste, but it's,
רבי, הוא שאל,
OU
Nitra.
and Nitra. How'd you know?
Something.
הוא שאל שאלה,
No, shahakla.
הוא שאל שאלה, אם זה בגד חדש או ישן, הוא לא משנה איזה בגד, אם זה רטוב, אז זה סחיטה אם אתה מוציא אותו, נכון?
Oh, exactly.
שומע?
Exactly. I do want to answer that, but David is waiting here for a while.
זה
Let
לא
me just-
משנה איזה בגד, זה סחיטה, אסור לך, אם אוטו נשפך עליך, אתה נשאר ככה.
I'm going to answer your question in a minute, but let me just answer David's because he posted a while ago. Can someone go into the ocean on Shabbos for a mikvah? Are the problems with possibly carrying water around on the body as you walk in the ocean with water on you? Also, if you go in a mikvah not in the ocean on Shabbos, can you towel off after? Is a problem getting the towels wet? All right, what does the class say?
What was the first question?
Can you go into the ocean on a mikvah? Can you go into the ocean as a mikvah on Shabbos? Or is it a problem with carrying the water out as you go out?
How can you go naked in the ocean and all the women outside around you?
You go at 6 a.m. before they show up.
תמיד יש עיניים שמסתכלים בים.
You go when it's dark so they can't see.
אוקיי.
It's not definitely sea basically, but someone's material on the water. Some Hasidim like to going to wait until all the water will drop from the beard until it comes up.
How are you going to wait? It's impossible to wait. Every step you're going to wait. It's actually usher. It's actually usher.
It's not about a pool also. One of the reasons if you don't have an air in a pool, that's also
Exactly.
one of the reasons why I say so.
Exactly. You're not allowed to go in water because you're going to be carrying the water out with you if it's a place without an air.
If there's a place with an air.
If there's an air, there's no problem. I don't know of any air that extended to the ocean.
No, let's say Yantiv.
Yantif, exactly. Yantif is no problem.
I have a question. If your neighbor is Mechalel Shabbat, driving a car,
Chas v'shalom.
Chas v'shalom, I mean Chas v'shalom, yes. He stop in and open the window and say Shabbat Shalom. You allow him to say Shabbat Shalom like that.
Why not?
And he is going to shake the hand Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, I have a guy. It's mamish. It tears your heart out. He used to be Shem Shabbos, he told me, but he got turned off, whatever excuses he has, and he drives the bus. In my area, there's like a little community bus every day, Shabbos, Yantav, Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippur, Baruch Hashem, he didn't drive.
Ah,
He was so proud of himself. He told me afterwards, Yom Kippur, I didn't drive. I said, I noticed. Anyway, Hashem should help.
It's improved. It's better to drive the bus than driving the car.
Why?
Better to use the bus than using your own private car.
No, he drives it. He doesn't take it.
He drives the bus?
He drives the bus. He's the driver. He's the bus driver. He's the bus driver.
Oh.
Yeah.
Using the bus, yeah.
Okay. Now, if you do go to a mikvah, a regular mikvah, how do you dry yourself on Shabbos? That's the question.
The best way is to run around the block.
You might get arrested for that.
Isn't it like you
Use a towel.
use a towel, but it's
Use
not,
a
you
very
don't rub
thick-
it, you just, like holding it.
So actually, when it comes to your body, you're allowed to dry normally. You're allowed to dry your body normally. You don't have to pat it.
If it's a thin towel, that's the issue.
No. That's an issue.
If it's a thin towel, then you're going to squeeze the water is going to be too dense within the thin towel, and you're going to squeeze the water out.
I don't think you're right.
That's what everyone thinks.
I don't think you're right. I don't think you're right about that.
I'd rather be right. I'd rather be wrong. That's what everyone says the issue is when they say dab with a towel because because the schita of the hairs. That's what people say.
Schita in the hair is only a problem in the places where there's a lot of hair. On the
It's not an issue with the
it's
body.
not an issue with the body. No, no that it says.
You're bare, so you might have a problem.
If you're a bear, then you have a problem.
And then people
אתה שומע? אתה שומע? ערוך את פניו ילד רגל בחמן, שוכמו מערב שבס, ואפילו כל גוף בחמן טבריה בציין, התירו לו להסתלבט מפח זה בסדן, אף על פי שמקרו ממהם לסכתם. לא יחושש שם ישכח יסחט בשבס, וזה דבר שאפשר לגזר עליו.
couldn't
Shema?
follow. You're reading way too much Ashkenazi.
He says you're allowed to. You're allowed to use a towel. We're not choshesh you're going to squeeze a towel because they didn't want to forbid bathing on Shabbos. It was too difficult for people to not bathe on Shabbos at all. So I don't know whether you got that from me. I think it's correct.
I mean, it's not even me. I didn't ever learn that. That's what everyone in the world says.
No.
It's the one that don't go to the mikveh.
What?
No? It's the one that don't go to the mikveh.
Anyway, the bottom line is when it comes to the hair, so hair does have schita, midrabanan. So you're definitely not allowed to squeeze out your hair. You know what I'm saying? Not to squeeze it out like that. When it comes to using a towel, Shlomo Zalman says you're allowed to use a towel normally because he says the towel, even though it squeezes it out, but it goes straight into the towel. So you never see what you're squeezing out. Others say, no, you should only pat it. That's what most people do. They just put it on and they pat it loosely. So they don't actually squeeze it, just like loose. Although I did want to mention something else. Oh yeah, there is a chumrah. We're going to see it at the end of this siman. There is a chumrah to kind of wipe off the body, wipe off the water from the body before you dry yourself, so that there should be as little water as possible on it.
You allowed to water like that? To take
Yeah.
the water from the body?
Yeah, the body, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that's actually a chumrah.
Is there schita in here?
Midrabanan.
So why is it mutter to push this?
Because
out?
that's not considered absorbed. The hairs are so spread, they're not considered absorbed.
What's that doing? The hair is absorbing.
The hair does not absorb anything.
The hair absorbs?
The hair does not absorb anything. It's the fact that it's stuck between the hairs makes it look like absorbing. You
I
understand?
thought the Rambam holds that hair absorbs.
Midrabanan only. Midaraisa does not absorb because it physically does not absorb. Midrabanan, it appears to absorb because it is stuck in between. So therefore, you're not allowed to squeeze it with Midrabanan. But that only applies when it's actually a bunch of hairs and it actually looks like it's absorbed, where it's spread out. So it's clearly not absorbed. It's okay.
So you should
It's a chumrah. You don't have to, but it's a chumrah. We're going to see why and later on in the Siman. Okay. You were in the middle of asking something? Oh, no, you were talking about tzchita. So here's the thing. When it comes to garments that get wet, the Ramah says that if it's an old garment, you're allowed to shake it out lightly. Because you shake it out lightly to make sure that you're not squeezing it when you shake it. And because it's old, you don't really care so much, so it's okay. Other poskim, the Magen Avraham brings, and the Alter Rebbe also brings, say you should be strict when it comes to rainwater, or if it actually fell in water or whatever, even if it's an old garment, you shouldn't shake it, because we're afraid that you'll shake it too hard to try to get the water out.
I'm going to spray, Rabbi. That's it. I'm going to, B'ezrat Hashem, I'll
Go for it.
I'll buy the spray and
Well,
I have no question.
buy a raincoat.
You don't
that's
think
a whole other
you will
idea.
get it too?
Huh?
You will get a new pants.
Well,
long one out.
no,
in
you
Florida,
buy a good
actually.
one for like $25, $30. Nice one that they cover you like
כמה
one that
כובע?
they're working on the street, you know.
גם אם זה יכסה את הכובע.
Chain coat, chain
כל
coat.
עם הספרי הזה, והספרה עולה $10.
אבל הספרי זה חד פעמי, נגמר הסיפור.
למה פתאום? לא, לא.
אני מחפש פעם בחצי שנה.
הספרי הזה זה לא עוזר הרבה, זה סתם חרטא.
לא?
Okay.
How wet did the Alter Rebbe of Magen Avraham say that old garment should get before it's aser?
That's a good question. How wet does it have to be for it to be aser? According to the Magen Avraham and Alter Rebbe.
What, the garment?
Yep. I don't think they specify. They say, Alter Rebbe says, Im yordu geshamim harbe ashum beged. A lot of rain. And how much more so if it falls in the water. So it is a little bit unclear. How much is a lot? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. But dew is definitely a little. And falling into water is definitely a lot. Everything in between, it's hard to exactly define it. Okay, my friends. Here, I'm going to share with you an interesting machlekes between the Mishnah Berurah and the Alter Rebbe. Let's say a piece of a cooked dish. You know what? Let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about that mud stain. The mud stain we talked about before. You have some mud that is on your jacket.
Moist mud?
Moist mud. You want to remove it. Now, if it's dry mud, there's a separate problem of tochen. So it's moist mud. So the halacha is that you're allowed to remove it if you do it in a backhanded way, from the other side. Mishnah Berurah says, what's going on here? What about the fact that, according to Rashi, you're cleaning the garment? And over there, it doesn't say, well, if it's new and black and it bothers you, it's a problem. It just says you can do it. It doesn't give you any qualifications. So the Mishnah Berurah comes up with a chiddush. This is his chiddush. He says, the reason over there we don't give you these details is because over there, even after you remove it, the stain is going to remain. If it's moist mud, it's obviously stuck on the garment.
Can we put the mud to any other dips that's still on you?
Any other one?
Dips.
Yeah, for sure. Same thing. Anything, he says, that after you remove it, there's going to be a stain left behind, so you're not properly cleaning it anyway. And therefore, it's not going to be chayev, even if it's new and black and it bothers you, because it's still going to bother you, even after you finish cleaning. And obviously, it's not a proper job of kibbutz, and you're doing it kalachar yad, it's okay. However, here's his chiddush. If the Mishnah Berurah, if it is a type of thing that you could successfully peel off, for example, ketchup, after it dries, if you let it dry, you can usually just peel it off, mamish, like peel it off, and there's nothing left.
Not even a red mark, a pink mark?
No, I'm not talking about on a white garment. I'm talking about like on a jacket.
Mm.
It just comes off. I don't know why. It just comes off.
Depends on the materials of the skill.
Yeah. The Mishnah Berurah says, if that is the case, you have to pay attention to these rules. You cannot do it if it's black, new, and it bothers you. Because once it comes off completely, it's no different than and dust, according to Rashi. That is the Chiddush of the Mishnah Berurah.
So, he's the Ramaz Machmer
Ramaz Machmer like Rashi, and he takes it one step further and applies it also to a mud stain. Really, it's not going to happen by mud, but any kind of food that peels off completely, he says you have to follow these conditions. So now the Alter Rebbe does not go like that. It's clear from the Alter Rebbe, exactly. It's clear from the Alter Rebbe that it's not about leaving a stain behind, and whether or not it leaves a stain behind, it makes no difference. You're allowed, even if it's black and new and it bothers you, you're allowed. Even if it's going to be no stain remain afterwards. Right, as long as you're not doing toichen. Now, the truth is, I don't remember how the Alter Rebbe answers this question of the Mishnah Berurah. It's a strong question. Why is it different than dust? So, I understand, but what's the difference? The fact is, it's something that bothers you. It's black. It's new. So why, when it comes to dust, you can't shake it off? When it comes to
but something with moist, with liquid, might gonna leave a stain on the
I'm saying that's the Mishnah Berurah's answer.
Dust will not.
I'm saying that's the Mishnah Berurah's answer. What if it's not going to leave a stain? What if it's a ketchup, dried ketchup?
Left a stain. You have to wait.
I'm saying lemaisa right now. Right now, if it's not going to leave a stain, what is the difference between that and dust? Because you've done it many times in your career of attending kiddushim and for praying it.
Ketchup for sure is a stain. Kapata and stuff, it's always a stain.
Lemaisa, I'm pretty sure the Ktsois Shulchan has an explanation on this, but I didn't get a chance to look it up yet, so we're going to have to leave it for now.
Quick question, Rabbi.
Yeah.
About the mikveh.
Yeah.
You go to the mikveh and it's chlorine, it's bothering you.
Yep.
You allow to cold water to flush on you?
What's the issue?
The Mishnah Berurah, sorry, not the Mishnah Berurah. The Rav Moshe Feinstein says that in America, the minhag is not to take a cold shower on Shabbos. So,
In Israel?
in Israel, there's no such minhag. Everybody is talking about America?
When you said the second part, what you said, I questioned the second guess myself. He obviously wasn't, but he didn't specify.
Right. Yeah, Rav Moshe agrees there's no ism and adin, but he says the minhag in America is not to do it.
It's still like it's like also divided in one shot. So many times that you can like.
That's warm water, not cold water. Cold water, there's no isser. The minhag is not to wash in cold water, like go into it, like bathe in it. But showering is mutar min adin. But the minhag in America, Moshe says, is not to.
What about rinsing body part by body?
I don't know.
What about just your head?
It would seem that less than 50% of your body would seem as mutar, even according to minhag America. But personally, I would not advise doing it in a public way in a mikveh where other people are watching, because it could lead other people to doing it. And honestly, it's a very dangerous thing, because how many people are careful to use only cold water, mamish, not even a drop of hot water? You know what I'm saying?
You got cold, you got hot.
No, a lot of the faucets are, this is cold, a little bit more. It's a
You
little
got
bit.
two and
I'm saying a lot of faucets are not like that. And even if it's two faucets, how does the person watching you know, and how does he? It's a big problem. I think that's the reason for minhag America, by the way. Because from a cold shower, it could come to not a hot shower, maybe lukewarm. And that's the problem. Any hot water at all is a
Barbecue
problem
outside the next
because
day.
you're taking in the cold water into the tank.
Right, they say
Right,
that you should,
then
before
you-
you wash your hands until tonight, you should move the areas
All the way.
all the way and then put out, not up and then
Yeah.
pull to the side.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
I think I'm just taking it. It's half of a joke, half of an answer, but I think the minhag is there because why does no one shower with cold water? Because we're just so spoiled. No one can shower with straight cold water. It's very difficult to shower with cold water. I didn't have warm water. I didn't have hot water in my house when I first got there.
every
And
day.
for a week maybe, cold showers. I gave up.
Mechila,
After the first
mechila.
shower, I gave up.
Who
It's
said
very
that?
difficult, It hurts.
So some Tana said that you take a shower, when you finish, you put only cold water drop in you. It's very
The
healthy.
Rambam say that.
Every day,
It's warm.
every day I take a shower, when I finish, I open only cold. It's really bad.
כן, אבל אסור על הראש.
No, I got two. I close all that and I stay for not 1 minute, 50 seconds.
על הרסה שלך.
על כל הגוף.
The Rambam says,
לא לשבת, לא שבת, אני
לא
אומר
משנה.
רגיל.
הרמב"ם אומר על
הרמב"ם.
הראש צריך להיות תמיד חם. לא להם קרים על הראש.
כן?
So trying to get confirmation on that.
Okay, it's good to know. So I'll do all about it then. Because the cold is the
אבל גם לא לעשות מכה אחד.
מכה אחד.
זה לא טוב.
לא, הוא מדבר ביום חול.
כן, ביום חול.
אני יודע. זה לא טוב.
Okay, my friends.
תשים ספרי.
למה ספר? מה ספר?
סקאט גם.
לא, זה לא בריא, אתה אומר?
מכה אחד זה לא בריא, זה יכול לעשות, זה משהו עם הלב. בהדרגתיות, לאט לאט.
אם זה יותר מדי קר.
אם אתה נוחמי ישר מחום, ישר
The Rambam
זה
says.
סוכר.
It's cold?
What? Yeah, but laat, like he says. Not straight from hot to cold. Laat.
תעשה את זה בהדרגתיות.
Okay. Here are a few stringencies of the Mishnah Berurah, which the Alter Rebbe does not argue with necessarily, so it's good to know about them. First of all, he says you should not remove dust with a brush, even if it's a case that is completely mutter, because it's old and it's white and you're not makbid all the heter in the world. You should not use a brush. I think it's just a uvdim dechoil kind of thing, like a weekday type of thing. Exactly, like hats. You have a hat and it's old and it's dusty. I mean, if it bothers you, the Mishnah Berurah says it's asur anyway. But whatever it is, you should not use the brush because that's the way you do it in the weekday. So it's a uvdim dechoil issue.
Can you go about the shinai?
A brush with a shinoi, just don't use a brush. Use a towel.
You're allowed to use brush, Rabbi?
No,
Is it something like
these halachas are the same.
same?
For this about cleaning clothes, Shabbos and Yom Tov are the same. Oh, by the way, speaking of Yom Tov, I looked up what we discussed yesterday about a person who cooked from one Yom Tov to the next.
Warm up, it didn't cook.
I'm saying warming up lach, warming up lach is the same as cooking.
It's not us.
It's not asur. Not asur. It says clearly. The only case it's asur is if you did harama in a forbidden way. Harama, trick. There's a way that you're allowed to do harama. If you do it in the morning and you eat some, or a whole thing. Let's say you did harama, but in a forbidden way. You did it in the afternoon, or you didn't eat any, whatever it is. Then it's asur, because then. Now that I'm not sure, I don't remember if it's asur for others or not. But over there, it's asur because you'll think that it's okay. If you did something wrong and you know it's wrong, they didn't punish you on Yom Tov because Yom Tov is not as strict as Shabbos. Harama, because you think it's okay, then they said you can't do it, even B'diavad.
Erev Tavshilin.
Yeah.
You'd be able to also prepare, not just cook and set the table and stuff like that, also for Shabbos?
So that's actually machlokes. Some say Erev Tavshilin is only good for things that you can't do on Shabbos. like cooking. So that's what it helps for. But when it comes to setting the table, which you could do on Shabbos, then it doesn't work for that. Others say no, it's okay. You can prepare whatever, set the table, etc., etc.
You have to set the table. What are you going to do?
No, he's saying that you
The
can
guests
do it when
will wait.
Shabbat starts, set the table.
It's your minhag to
Erev
keep the
Tavshil
table
lets you
so
prepare from Yom Tov.
even during the week.
Mm. You mean you should set up the table.
Shalosh B'tzarim,
In
you want to set up for Shabbat.
the dining room, they'll keep the table set.
Which is a Yom Tov.
What, like in the fancy palaces with the king and the queen of England?
So it's ready for whenever you have a guest, whatever.
Okay.
If you, but
Well,
if
that's
you
about
do
it.
that, then on Shabbos,
Okay.
then on Erev Shabbos,
Maybe.
you should be able to.
I hear
That's
you.
where it belongs.
I do hear you.
The candles for Shabbat. Light them.
Yeah, according to that opinion, then it would allow. What the second opinion? What halacha is the Chabad, Sephardi, Ashkenazi,
As far as what?
preparing on Yom Tov for things that can be done on Shabbos? For Shabbos?
I don't know.
Or is there up to?
I don't,
Set the table.
but not because I don't on policy. I just kind of leave these things to my wife. I don't think she does. I've never instructed her one way or the other. I don't think she does. I don't know. I don't know if there's a clear psak about it one way or the other. Not sure.
It's very interesting. We had two of them, right?
3.
Yeah.
Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot's first days and Sukkot's last days. But Uman doesn't count because it's a whole different world over there. So I'm sure you weren't setting any tables.
Yeah. We were not.
Okay. So one strictness, we already said, not to brush it with a brush. Another one, which I mentioned yesterday.
You mentioned usually hold the hat and move the brush.
Yeah.
If you want to hold the brush and move the hat.
I don't think it's mutter. I don't think it's mutter. I don't think so.
Just consider Shino to people that.
This is only according to the Mishnah Berurah, who's specifically being machmir on every part of it.
Well, yeah, according to those that hold that, if you're not machmir like Rashi, then there's no issue. That's what I'm saying. Dust is not an issue. So you may as well use a brush.
Would you be, should use a brush?
No.
So start could do.
Yeah, I saw that actually in the Yalkut Yosef. In other words, the whole thing, I don't think he mentions the hat specifically, but he mentions clothes. The whole thing about Udin the Chol is because it's a generally forbidden thing in some circumstances, and this is specifically used in that way, so it's considered Udin the Chol. But if the whole concept of removing dust is never asar, so why is it Udin the Chol? You see what I'm saying? It's only Udin the Chol based on the fact that it's generally an isser. So even though you're doing it in a permissible way, but when you use the specific item that is made to clean, that's a problem. But if you don't consider that type of cleaning a malacha ever, so it's not Udin the Chol either. Yeah.
Anything that you would normally do to clean something is also.
No.
Well, that's
If you're using a particular tool that you normally use to clean something is awesome. But not if you're cleaning it with, like we said, shaking it or with your hands or with a knife. I mean, there's different ways that are permissible.
what would the brush be in that category?
If you use the tool,
One second.
a type of brush
Yeah.
that you wouldn't normally use the brush, would that be okay?
I think so. If it's the type of dust that you're allowed to remove based on everything we're talking about. Sorry.
Why wouldn't the brush be? What's a good example of something that's not usher during the week, obviously, but it would be usher on Shabbos from using its clean. I don't know. Let's say
Should be free.
let's say
This is the case with pillar.
the cut vegetables.
Pillar.
The
pillar.
you know,
Can use it.
Nice vegetables, very, very
Shabbos, but still allows you to peel it.
say a
Only the
bike.
pillar.
Yeah, but that's not about Udin the Chol.
What about a bike?
What about it?
Riding a bike is an usher, but riding a bike on Shabbos is in the hole. One of the reasons is
Or if you got three wheel, I heard something. The three wheel is different with two wheel, right, Rabbi? Something like that. Two wheel is different than three wheel.
My understanding of Udin Dechol, I'm not sure exactly what your question is, but my understanding of Udin Dechol is that if it's something that is normally a forbidden action, right? Even though right now it's permissible, but if you're doing it in a way that appears to be forbidden, it's Udin Dechol. Like for example, we had Udin Dechol with removing bread from an oven. When you use a mirda, when you use the designated tool for it, so that's Udin Dechol. So the act of removing the bread from the oven, I mean, you're not baking, you're just removing it, right? But because it's generally part of the act of baking, even though it's done after the baking is done, so when you do it with that tool, which is the normal way of doing it, it looks like a baking, looks like part of the baking. So that's why it's what it is. So it's the same thing when you do something, even though it's permissible, but you do it in a way that is normally perceived as a malacha, so that becomes Udin Dechol. So I don't know if the bike is Udin Dechol per se. There's other issues with the bike. Maybe you'll fix it. Maybe you'll go out of the tchum. Maybe you'll. It's not Shabbosdik, which is a.
That's what it's not in the ruach.
Not in the ruach of Shabbos. I don't know if that's called Udin Dechol, but it's definitely not in the ruach of Shabbos. Just seeing how, unfortunately, things kind of deteriorate. I see it in my neighborhood. So some people use bikes. I don't know who gave them a heter. Maybe whatever. And a lot of people use scooters. No, regular bikes. And a lot of people use scooters. So the issue with the bike is twofold. First of all, you pay fix-it, which they say is not such a problem with scooters because there's no air in the tires, so whatever, there's no chain. But another issue with bikes that Shmir Shabbos says is that because it goes quickly, it's a very quick form of transport, you may end up going out of the tchum. You're not paying attention. You go. You may not pay attention. You may go out of the tchum. That could be a problem with scooters too, any kind of transportation like that. But another issue is in terms of Shabbosdik, if you want to just take that catch-all phrase. So you see many people, going to shul in it, all dressed in their Shabbos finery. But then later on Shabbos afternoon, you see people, like mostly kids, teenagers, they look like it's, Wednesday afternoon with their shorts and because they're scooting, you know what I mean? So they're just like, totally do not look like the atmosphere of Shabbos.
Does skateboarding also fall in that same category?
Personal observation. I'm sorry, one more time.
Does skateboarding also fall in that category?
It would seem to me, yes. It would seem to me. I'm sorry? Whatever. It's funny, but I see even 60-year-olds on these things. It's a sight to see.
I don't let my kids take a bicycle or scooter.
Neither do I.
It's a sachar alicha.
That's another point. That's another point. Yeah, I hear. Okay. Another chiddush of the Mishnah Berurah, which is actually not his own. We quoted it yesterday from the Yaris Devash, Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. He says we should be strict about all garments. Yesterday I said Shabbos clothes, but he actually says we should be strict about all garments in terms of old. We don't know what's old, what's new, because the definition of new, we said yesterday, three opinions. One opinion says, actually, I don't think we mentioned this opinion yesterday. The Rambam says, it's clear, but we didn't mention it yesterday. New means never worn. Never worn. The whole point is that according to the Rambam, it's the makav patish. Before you wear it the first time, you shake off all the junk and you put it on. Once you started wearing it, it's not going to be makav patish anymore.
Sorry.
Be refers to Yom Tov also because.
Yeah, makav patish is the same. Anything that's not with food,
Shaking the garment.
all the same,
What if you're makbid?
But it's not for
all the same.
I missed the
Sorry?
point.
What if you're makbid?
What do you mean?
Like I didn't enjoy wearing it. I had nothing else to wear. And the second time I now.
Oh, no. What I mean is that before you wear it the first time, you cleaned it off, and now it got dirty again, and you're wearing it just the second time, that's already not new. I don't mean that you wore it dirty the first time.
I was saying,
You know what I'm saying?
the Rambam with the
The Rambam with the threads means the first time, meaning to say that it was never properly cleaned, was never properly made ready for wearing, that's new. Now when you clean it off, you made it ready, that's new.
What if you didn't clean it off the first time, but you wore it?
That's still new. Because you never brought it to it means you wore a not ready garment. Okay, that's your option, but it's still not ready. You see what I'm saying? So after you cleaned it the first time, it's not really about even wearing it per se. It means before it was ever properly ready.
So
That's
if you
what
go
it
for
means.
shachrit and then you come back and you find in the mincha, the jacket is a little bit dust. So it's I mean, you can check it with that.
If it's new and it's
If it's
black,
new,
it's black, and if it's new, you can't do it if it bothers you, like we're saying.
Okay.
But the point is, how do you define new? So some say that it's before you wash it the first time. I mentioned this last night, but most poskim say that it's while it still looks new. And Rabbi Yonasan Eibich, it's based on that last opinion, says, well, we don't know exactly when it looks new, when it doesn't look new, and you should be strict with all garments to consider them new. Now, what I said yesterday was that Shabbos clothes you should always consider new because people keep them good looking and so on. The Aruch HaShulchan is the one who says that. The Aruch HaShulchan says no matter how old something is, if you always keep it looking new, because you always treat it well, you put it away nicely, you clean it as soon as it gets dirty, so that it retains its newness for a long time. So that's a reason to be strict with this halacha. Okay, now, here's another chiddush. How do we define makbid? So we said, according to Rashi, it means that you would not wear it without cleaning it. That's what most poskim say. However, we also said that according to the Rambam, it seems that it means if you're doing it for the purpose of cleaning it. If you're doing it for the purpose of cleaning it, it's a problem, even if you would wear it otherwise. The fact he's doing it with the purpose of cleaning it, it's a problem. Now, the Rambam is talking about in his case, where you're cleaning something for the first time that was never worn. Can you carry that Rambam over and apply it to the case of Rashi, where it's just dirty and you want to wash it? Maybe not. I'm saying maybe each opinion holds of their definition of makbid based on their situation. For Rashi, where it's not a very significant cleaning, right? Because it's not makbid pata, it's just a bit of dust. Maybe it's only if it bothers you to the extent that you wouldn't wear it. Whereas the Rambam, because he's talking about cleaning for the first time, it's very important. You're making it ready. So there, any cleaning with the intent of cleaning is a problem. So one second. So maybe each one defines it according to his thing. That's one way of learning. However, the Vilna Gaon says no, because the Machaber, when he says about makbid in the first sif, he doesn't define makbid. He just says who should makbid alam. In the second sif, he says who should yakbid alam avol mesim derech esek pater. That if it's makbid, it's a problem. If you're doing it derech esek, absent-mindedly, not paying attention, then it's pater. That means he's defining makbid in that sif, like the Rambam does. If you're doing it with the intent of cleaning, it's a problem. So now that he defined makbid in the second sif, like the Rambam, going back to the first sif, where he doesn't explain himself, he also means to define it like the Rambam. So therefore, the Mishnah Berurah says to be strict and not clean it if you're doing it for the purpose of cleaning.
I think everybody
Tremendous chiddush. According to that, you're left with almost no cleaning opportunities.
Really, honestly, everybody doing for cleaning. Otherwise, you would not clean it.
That's true.
So it's better not to clean
Can you repeat that in someone's
The definition of makbid, according to the Rambam, is that you're doing it for the intention of cleaning it, as opposed to just do it absentmindedly and not really caring one with the other.
Could mean actual wanting it to be like a better quality or whatever. The quality of now the garment is better. But taking off what is there, is that considered cleaning it?
Well, you obviously are when you're doing it, you're taking off what's there. But the question is, do you care about the clean garment, or are you just doing it because you're bored and you decide, I may as well.
So, if the same dirt was like the guy, because it's Shabbos, like it's not Shabbos day, but if it would have the same type of dirt during the week, I wouldn't care so much.
So we discussed that earlier. The Sfasema says that we go by the weekday. We go by the weekday.
Shabbos doesn't look nice.
So he said we go by the weekday. If you would wear it during the week, you can clean it on Shabbos.
But during the week, you can clean it right away.
I'm saying if you wouldn't care about it during the week and you wouldn't always run to clean it so fast, then you can do it on Shabbos too.
Who says that?
The Sfas Emes. Sfas Emes is the second Ger Rebbe.
This one, I don't care how it's look. I go with this for area, but I have another jacket for Shabbat. So if I don't care about this one,
No, each jacket has to be judged separately.
אבל אם על 12, אז הם
Why isn't it? Why can't it be that I'm not a person that cares? Not about the jacket itself. That if I don't care if my jacket is dirty.
But if you do care about this particular jacket, the fact that you don't care about a different jacket.
Shabbat I care about.
No, he didn't say that. If you would wear that to a wedding during the week, you would clean it?
Wedding is like
I will take the Shabbat jacket.
I'm saying, would it bother you?
No, I will take the Shabbat jacket.
I'm
Whatever is
saying,
there,
if
in the
you
closet,
wear-
that's what I get.
I'm saying, but if you would, let's say you would wear that during the week, not to a wedding. If you're wearing the Shabbos jacket during the week and it gets dirty, would it bother you?
So if it's really mal,
Okay, whatever. If it bothers you, then it's a problem.
that's a good question about like the whole wedding or
Usually
going
you
to an
care
occasion where you have to look good.
before you have kids.
Right.
After you have kids, if you have
That's
kids,
like-
you don't care so much. Because you can keep it clean anyway.
Yeah,
It's
but
like-
it's all
it's like,
depends.
I don't
If
wanna say
it's
it's like
a
Shabbos.
boss,
Yeah.
drop it on your jacket.
Mindset about
You will not
Could be.
leave it over there.
Could be, I don't mean the wedding. I mean, what I meant is if you wear it during the week, if it bothers you.
No, but if it's a boat, you will not go to synagogue like that. You care about that.
All right, my friends, that pretty much wraps up my handout.
Go to the jacket.
Let us continue with,
No, don't wear the jacket. Go to the
Yeah.
short shop. What's the big deal?
But the question, if you care.
okay, let's continue the Alter Rebbe.
It's gonna be embarrassing.
Please, you know, down there.
80% I don't care, but some of the stuff, like, can I go to synagogue? It's not doesn't make. But if it's you're
I think
not,
we're up to Gimel.
putting- and
No, we did Gimel, sorry, we're up to Dalet.
if you're not putting it in your jacket,
And by the way, by that, I have a man, let me show me, who is it? And say, you know,
Rashi. Yeah. All right, number 4, my friends, in the Alter Rebbe.
number 4, it's here.
יש לך? כן, ד' בדיוק. אוקיי, הקרא המנס לחסו ליטר על דרך שנסבור בסימן רשעים חס, חייב. A person who rips with the intent of sewing it again, as was explained in Reshayim Ches. Chayev is liable. Shum Yavis Malachas, it is an Av Malacha. Where do they do it in the Mishkan? By the way, the Alter Rebbe style is wherever in Hilchos Shabbos he introduces a Malacha that he never taught you before, he tells you the source where it happened in the Mishkan. So here it is. Shekain b'Mishkan, Yeriyash Nafel B'Telas, Menaka B'Nekav Cotton V'Agul, וכדי לטרף צריך לקרוא למעלה למטה את הנגב שליטי התפירה עשוי כמותם כמותם, וכרי שהמנס ליטרה הלך לליטרה פטרה ולעשה מן הספר. Listen carefully. You know, they have these beautiful tapestries, curtains, but the moths, they don't care Mishkan, not Mishkan, whatever it is, it's wool. They eat it. So you have a little hole in the middle of the tapestry. You can't leave the hole there. So what do? If you just sew it together, you're going to create like a little wrinkle in the garment. It's not going to be even. So they would rip all the way down to the bottom.
How much?
All the way down, from the hole all the way down, and on the other way all the way to the bottom, and then put it together so it's even all the way up and down, and sew it again.
So on Shabbat.
So I'm saying they would do that during the week. That's koreya almanas lidfor, ripping for the purpose of sewing. That's aser midairaisa. Now, a person who rips without the intention of sewing is aser d'rabbanan, right?
Have to be actually sewing to be collide
Like what?
Some people sometimes on Shabbos, they get caught in the rain. They take a garbage bag, make a hole, and make it like a raincoat. You know, they're allowed to. They
No.
go out and out the tucker.
That's not koreya.
Why is
That's
it not
that.
koreya?
No. That's
But
not
no,
koreya.
ripping it, you
That's not
destroy it.
koreya. That's not koreya. That's not koreya. That is mesaken kli. That is tikkun kli. Maked bepatish. It's a clear gemara that it's chayav chatas. The Gemara says, a person who opens a neck hole, he has a garment without a neck hole. Whatever, they made it, they forgot the hole. He cuts it open, chayav chatas.
Rabbi, what's happening if the
He's using it as a garment.
Rabbi, what's happening if the goy did cut the plastic?
I don't know if it's mutter even for a guy. To be honest, it's a big shot. Maybe if you say it's not a garment, so it's only the Rabbanan, maybe you can have a guy do it. I don't know. But for a Jew to do it is a big problem. Big problem. Okay. We continue and we say, Lefikach. Did I translate this?
Like books that someone told me once, or I read once, that scarf that have two pages
So zipping out your mafia
that are attached together.
Sorry?
Scarf that have two pages that are like somewhat attached. Sometimes
Depends how they're attached. If they're attached because they were never detached, you know what I'm saying? That's how they came from sometimes like that. They're just one page, you know what I mean? So that's a technically, that's a big problem. If they got stuck together because of a bit of food in the middle, then you can do it. No problem. As long as you don't rip it or take off any words or whatever. Okay. Did I translate this? One who rips the intent to sew it up again. Yeah, I said it already. This is one of the halachas in the Mishkan. If there was a curtain that got a round wormhole, they would first need to rip it above below the hole so that the sewing should not cause wrinkles. One rips that the intent of sewing is potter, but it's forbidden by a binat. We continue. Lefikach mishnah stabchu begodav bekoitzim. Afrisha betzinum es mamei kadesh leyikru. V'mnikru evekach klum. Kim shlan eskavan lekach. Ve'im kam psik reisha shekiven shes mamei hayav shelo yikru. Therefore, one whose garment got stuck in thorns may remove it in a private place and do it slowly so that they not rip. So basically, you got stuck in thorns. So if you do it without caution, you're going to end up ripping the garment. If you do it carefully, you can remove them all without ripping the garment, but you shouldn't do it in public because people may not realize how careful you have to be, and they may do it without being careful and rip it. So you should do it in private.
Question, if you have a table of cloth, the plastic, you can use that without all?
Without a hole, yeah, why not? Okay. If they ripped, this is no concern because it was not his intention. This is not a pixik reisha. Since he did it slowly, so it was possible that it wouldn't rip. Right? In order to be chayev, it has to be, if you're not intending, it has to be a certain thing. Yeah.
And they do like it's a shit, and they cover the table and they cut it with a knife or something.
A Jew? No.
The table.
A Jew cannot cut it.
Right?
A Jew cannot cut it. Tikkun kli. Major problem. I don't know the heter for going to cut it either.
Well, the shinoi. People do it with the shinoi.
What's the heter with the shinoi? Malacha deraisa with the shinoi? I don't know if the heter. A goy with the shinoi. A goy with the shinoi is a shvus to shvus. But a goy without a shinui, I think, is even that is also. Mamash Isidar.
There's such a thing that a goy with a shinui?
Why
A
not?
goy does it with a shinui?
Why not?
I've never heard of such.
Yeah. Shvus to shvus.
Or if you don't just tell
He's
him.
not mechayev b'chlal, meaning he's not.
Same, but you can't tell him to do a malacha daraisa.
Let's say you don't
But
say
even a
it.
shvus to shvus is not lachatchila. Saying lachatchila, you cut them before Shabbos, or you buy the pre-cut ones. If you need it, there's a big group, whatever.
Let's say if you don't say anything to him, he knows. I mean, you know that you have to fix the table and he.
The goy?
Go.
The goy. Right, no, actually. Is it a problem according to everyone?
I don't know the heter. What would the heter be?
I don't know. I'm not. So. Is this also about ripping? We're about to learn about ripping. That's why he started this?
No.
Oh.
We're not learning about ripping at all. We just mentioned it here. I don't know. I don't think it's allowed even if you don't tell him specifically, because he's doing it for you and you're benefiting right away. I don't think it's okay. Yeah. Okay. Number 5. Derech Omlin, this is the Rambam. Derech Omlin, oisim kli matches, lakas bepatish la kli achash and nigmar kadei lahashvis aknemusi ba'akal zu. The Alter Rebbe is introducing Makah bepatish. Ba'akal zu hi gemar malachas ha-malacha, malachas ha-kli, sorry, hu av malacha. Shoysu b'klei ha-mishkan. Cholis kashum davar shu gemar siyas ha-kli v'tikun ha gemar zen nechshel ha-malacha, who told this Makah bepatish ha b'mishkan. Kigoyin, atzor tzur b'kli ha-imel etzarei, afilu etzil ha-mixas ha-tzura, hariyasa mixas gemar ha-kli v'chaya. עכשיו שהציר מצד עצמי נחוש המלאכה, ומכל מקום אחר שהכלי נגמר ונסכן על ידו הוא נחשב המלאכה. וכן כל עושה איזה תיקון לכלי, תיקון זה נחשב המלאכה וחיים. וצריך למה עושה כלי מתחילה סוי, שחיים משום הקרפת, השאף ממניין שם בהם משום בוינה, כמו שהסבור בסימן של י"ד, בסימן של ח"ב. Here goes the English. It's the way of craftsmen that are making a metal utensil to strike with their anvil on the utensil. Anvil is like a hammer. After it's complete, to straighten out its crookedness with this blow. This blow is the final aspect of making the utensil. This is an av malacha that they used to do with the utensils of the Mishkan. Whoever does anything which is the final aspect of making a kli and fixing it, this completion is considered a malacha, and it's a tool of makabeh patish that was in the Mishkan. For example, one who makes a design on a kli that's fit for this, even if he only did part of the design, he has done part of the gemar of the kli and is chayiv. Even though the design itself is not considered malacha, right? Sometimes making a picture is a malacha, like writing 2 letters. But if you make a picture that's small, so it's less than the size of 2 letters, it's not a malacha. But if it's finishing the kli, it becomes a malacha. So again, even though the design itself is not considered a malacha, nevertheless, now that the kli is completed and fixed to this, it's considered a malacha. So too, whomever does any tikkun of a kli, tikkun means a perfection or fixing, this tikkun is considered a malacha and he's chayiv. Certainly, one who makes an entire kli is chayiv from makabeh patish, even if it's done in a way that does not involve boina, as will be explained in Siman 314 and Siman 322. We're going to see in Siman 314, if you make a kli that is not professional, you only chayiv for kelim if you do it in a professional way. If you make a kind of immature, like amateur kind of keli, that's not going to be boina, but it is makabeh patish. You understand? If you make a complete keli, that's makabeh patish. So we're going to see more about that over there.
I saw and shows that the guy will cut it not with a knife but by hands, the table now. But some materials also to cut toilet paper in between the lines if you have nothing else to use.
Okay.
So you also cut.
Yeah, but that's a b'di'evet situation where you're stuck. So kavod abrius, even though it's a malacha d'Rabbanan, halacha yad is still a malacha d'Rabbanan, but because you're stuck and it's not nice to make you stuck there the whole Shabbos, so kavod
So in the
abrius.
case that the guy cut the table now, you shouldn't put the food with the plates on it. You should move it and put the table because you enjoy from the malacha that we did.
It's a hard question to answer because are you benefiting from the tablecloth? You could put the plate on the table. It's the guy who's cleaning after that wants the tablecloth. So I don't know. The person who's setting it up should not use those tablecloths. But if it's already set up and you're just putting your plate down, I don't know. All right, 2 minutes left. I want to go for Vav. Lefikach haloiket yabeles shalgabe abegodim. כגון אלו היבלס שבכלי צמר, הנשאר בהם מן ההריגה וכן קושם וכספן דקן, שנהרגו בבגד שלו במסכוון, הנוהג לא ישם לאחר ההריגה חי ושום מק בפתש, אם הוא מק עליהם, דהיינו שהוא מסיר בכוונה כדי ליחס הבגד, שהיא בזה חושב גומר ועשיס מלאכה ותיקון לפי שמק עליהם, אבל מק עליהם אינו מסיר מעל דרך מסעסת בעם הפטר ולעס מדי בספר. This is the Rambam that is relevant for the sugya we've been learning. Therefore, one who removes protruding threads from garments, for example, the threads that remain after weaving, so too splinters or bits of straw that were inadvertently woven into the garment, one removes them after the weaving is chai from Makavapantish, was particular about them, i.e., that he removes them with the intention.
Not to do with a new garment, just any garment.
No, new garment.
So new?
Yeah, new. Had a shorim behemina ariga that are left from the weaving. You understand? Shenergu bebega that were woven in. So it's obviously it just finished weaving and you want to put it on now, so you're taking them out. I.e., that he removes them with the intention to beautify the garment. This beautification is considered the making and fixing of the garment because it's particular about them. But if he's not particular on them and is only removing them in a way of misasek, not paying attention, he is pater, but it is forbidden by rabbinic law. One more sif with your permission. Zayin, shlal, shoisim achayatim. Hainu shubitchil. שבתחילת ספירוסם מחב במוחות נסעדיונס הבגד עם מה שטבן תחתיו סורף אחר גמר ספירוסם מויצי איכות הנהלם מן הבגד יש לסבגנו מוצאים בשעבס חי אחרת של מקם בלטה שמקם עליהם ומסם דבסף מן מקם עליהם ויש לאחמר. The shlal basting thread that the tailors make, i.e. that in the beginning of sewing a garment they connect the threads, that part of the garment, with what they will sew beneath it, and after they finish sewing they remove these threads from the garment. There's a doubt if one removes them on Shabbos, chai from Makom Patish, if it's particular about them, and it's forbidden by rabbinic law if it's not particular, and one should be strict. Basically, the way it works is as follows. You have, let's say, the two pant legs, and you want to keep them close to each other while you're sewing them. So the bottom, let's say, obviously the bottom of the pant legs, you don't need them connected, but you sew them anyway so that it shouldn't spread too far apart while you're sewing the top ones. You know what I'm saying? So then, when you're finished sewing the top ones, you have the leftover threads connecting the bottom ones. Obviously, you want to take those off. So that could be considered makam b'pantish, because you never had a complete garment, and now before you wear it the first time, obviously you want to remove those threads. So that could be makam b'pantish. Alter says it's better to be strict about that.
It's going to be the same situation, let's say, on some new jacket, the pockets are so.
Exactly. Same thing.
You can't just rip it open.
Can't rip it open on Shabbos, no. That could be also kareya, ripping, which is also an rabbanon, because you're not planning to sew it, but it could also be makam b'pantish. It could be both. Could be both. Yes. Question?
Using cans of drinks?
No.
In some reason?
Makam b'pantish, correct.
Why do you load it? You create a can.
What do you mean? Because you're going to throw it out? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
That's a chiddush of Rav Moshe, that a throwaway thing is not considered a keli. And it's not so clear from the Alter Rebbe that he agrees with that.
Cans, right?
Sorry?
Cans of soda.
No, but he had other throwaway items, and he discusses them, and it's not clear that he agrees with Rav Moshe on that. Obviously, Rav Moshe came much later, but I'm saying it's not clear that he agrees with Rav Moshe's chiddush on that. And Rabbi Deitch in Tzemach Tzedek, where I learned, was of the opinion that it's Asar Mid'oraisa, and that, I'm not saying everybody agrees, I'm just saying that was his opinion, and that you can't even ask a goy to do it for you.
Also, Yom Tov or just
Yom Tov is the same for
We're
this.
opening a bottle cap.
Actually, I'm not sure. I'm just thinking now. Perhaps, maybe there's a heter because of Eichel Nefesh, because if you would open it before Yom Tov, you would lose the fizz. I'm not sure about that.
What about bottle caps?
Bottle caps, Reb Shlomo Zalman holds that the plastic ones are mutter because it's not such a big change from with the ring to without the ring. But we'll get to that in Mitzvah Hashem in 3:13 through 14.
So what is some people might be to open all the bottles and close them right away?
Yesh makom lachmir, a person who wants to be machmir,
Individual also.
based on kli, also tikkun kli, because the fact is when you remove the ring, it's easier to open and close. As long as the ring is on it, it's not so easy. So I used to be machmir until I read the Chiddush of Shlomo Zalman. I used to be machmir.
What's the Chidush?
That the plastic ones are not so different when it's connected or not.
Any bottle you can open in Shabbat?
He holds the plastic ones.
Only the plastic.
The plastic.
So what about a bottle of wine?
What do you mean?
Plastic.
The metal ones? It seems to be a problem from his words, but when we get to 314, we'll see. Maybe it's not a problem either. Could be it's not a problem either.
Which halachot is that?
Shin Yud Daled. Zat Hashem.
Shin
Yud Daled.
Yud Dalet.
Ken.
What does Chabad say about
My nephew said he was.
I daven my already.
My nephew is machmir, and he said it's. So I will look. I will look
You know he's machmir about what?
To open a bottle of
Bottles?
wine.
Good. It's a good thing to be machmir.
It's Baruch Hashem, but if I can do it, so why? I mean, it's good to
Don't
do.
stop him from being machmir.
No, I'm not stopping him.
I have it.
But
Good.
but
Now I'm gonna try this again.
the way we were conversation, he was
Strong.
Strong. Like it's a like a
Clear yourself.
writer,
It could be it is. Could be it is. Maybe it's not, but it could be it is.
That's why
I wouldn't cool him off. Don't cool him off just yet.
not yet until מזונות, אני רוצה לשמוע.
The general minhag in Chabad is to be mekel.
Amen.
Amen. Even though it's not clear from the Tzemach Tzedek. Yashan. The general minhag is to be mekel. And from the Tzemach Tzedek, it seems that maybe it's not so pashut. That maybe we should be machmir.
But I've never been with it, you have to keep it even in Chutz La'aretz. So it's so weird.
Now, the Alter Rebbe brings all the Mekilim, but he says Yerei Shamayim is machmir. He brings all the Mekilim, brings the Magen Avraham, brings the Bach, he brings the reasons. He says Minhag ha'olam is lahakol, but Yerei Shamayim will be machmir. And then at Tzemach Tzedek, it seems also like it's a good thing to be machmir. But the Minhag ha'olam is to be mekel. I asked Rabbi Heller once about it, because when I was more young and enthusiastic and Haredi, I was thinking of taking it on, and my father, by the way, keeps it. So
Where's your father?
LA, but he's a unique Chabadnik. He sleeps in the sukkah, he eats shal shudas, he davens mantfila, all these outlandish things. Anyway, so Rabbi Heller said that Api Kabbalah, it seems like Yashan is not an issue until Mashiach comes in Chutz La'aretz. I'm not a Mekubal, but whatever. That kind of cooled me off from it.
Someone told me that the Baal Shem Tov also studied.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a shmua. There's like I don't know if it's authenticated, but there is a shmua that the Baal Shem Tov praised the Bach, who held that it does not apply to land belonging to Goyim. Not that it doesn't apply to Chutz La'aretz B'chlal, but it doesn't apply to land belonging to Goyim. So most farmers are Goyim or whatever, so that's another thing.
Why doesn't Chabad sleep in a sukkah?
Chabad doesn't sleep in the sukkah because there was a remark from the second Rebbe that how can you sleep in the makifim of Bina? The revelations in the sukkah are from that level of makif and Bina, and to sleep in that level is like almost disrespectful to it and so on.
To eat in its.
To eat, you have your wits about you, you keep your consciousness, you have good thoughts, so on. But the Rebbe gave it a nigla spin also because he said it's mitzvah. If you know that you're perhaps not behaving so properly in the presence of such a gilui, so you're mitzvah from that, so that's the nigla spin.
It sounds like
But sifting
a
flour.
nigla nister spin.
Yeah.
Sifting flour.
Sifting flour.
Rabban told me that because the flour comes from America, you don't have to.
Because why?
The flour in America and Canada, you don't have to.
Why?
It can't be sifted all the way.
Yeah, but it's if it's like a paper, so I mean, it's like sealed something. Come inside it.
If you, after you open
No, but the package is paper, some of like plastic that is sealed, so it's different.
It's really a question of how.
Yes.
What are the likeliness of there being bugs in it? And here in Florida, especially if you don't use it right away, or if you buy from a store that does not have a high turnover rate, it's very shaykh. You can have bugs.
in the refrigerator.
That's a good answer. If you buy it from a store that has a high turnover and you keep it in the fridge or the freezer, I don't know if you have to sift it. I don't know. But if you keep it in your pantry for a couple of weeks, definitely I would say to sift it, because there's just humidity and these bugs come in before you know it.
Most of it in the refrigerator. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it would seem if you use it fresh or from the fridge, it would seem that it's okay. But I don't claim to be an expert in that. Okay. Have a good night, everybody.
All right.
I forgot to daven Ma'ariv if you didn't daven yet.